Hello and welcome, all agents, trainers, bloomers, keepers, hunters, lightship pilots, eighth wall advertisers, and our beloved explorers and wayfinders. Thank you for choosing the Wayspotters podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things Niantic Wayfarer. Wayspotters is brought to you by the good people at the Pokémon Professor Network. Today is Friday, September the 8th. This is episode 86. I have a great show planned for all of you today. We're going to do something that I've wanted to do for a while, and some stuff come up in the news, so it's going to have a nice little segue into it. Things are going to flow beautifully. But before we get into that, with me as always, from a new location this week is Jamal. Hey, Jamal, how's it going?
What's going on, man? How are you today?
I am wonderful. My grandson's coming home today.
Nice. Congratulations, Grandpa. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm not quite there yet, but maybe someday I will be. But yeah, man, I'm from a new location right now. So I'm in Portland, Oregon, visiting my mom, and I'm in the building that she lives in, and there's really no quiet spot in this entire building. The building I wanted to go into, there are people in there playing bingo, and I'm in kind of the activities room right now, so there's a little bit of an echo, and there's people walking by. The really only quiet place in her whole building is the chapel. And I started setting up in the chapel, and I felt really, really bad. So I'm like, I can't do the podcast from the chapel. So you'll have to forgive me this week if there's a little background noise. I'll try to mute it out the best as possible. But yeah, man, I'm here with Avery in Portland visiting my mom. She hasn't seen my mom since December of 2019, right before the world shut down and went crazy. I brought Addison back to Portland with me in July, and so I'm like, I got to bring Avery. So she's upstairs with my mom, and they're doing whatever grandmothers and granddaughters do, and I'm down here doing the podcast. So there it is.
Nice. Gives them some time together. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited for the show this week. Do you have news?
I do. We got quite a bit of news, so let's jump in.
All right.
And now, the latest Niantic news from the Wayspotters podcast, presented by the Pokémon Professor Network.
All right, we're going to go rapid fire style here. So if you forgot to change your bonus location after the last Wayfarer challenge, you should be able to change it now. Spoiler alert for later. We're going to talk about that again.
Okay.
A while back, Niantic asked Wayfarers to nominate basketball courts on K-12 grounds. They are now saying to stop that entire process, and I'm sorry to anybody from Niantic who was listening. That entire project was a dumpster fire right from the get-go. So with NBA All World sunsetting, somebody posted in the forums, was like, what are we doing with this? And they're like, yeah, no. And if any of them made it into a non-NBA game, please go report them, and then they'll remove them. The Wayfarer team is up to 1,500 Wayspots removed in the Netherlands.
Wait, did you say 1500? 1,500?
1500.
So the abuse was a lot bigger than we even thought.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
good stuff.
Kudos to the Wayfarer team, and kudos to anybody who's still involved in that thread, feeding Niantic the spots that need to go, because they are doing some work. I just had another one. They had, I think, 40 stops or something that I reported removed too. So they are hard at work.
This week
and finally, this relates back to the Niantic thread. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say this week on our Twitter and our email, we had a lot of people reporting to us that people were getting banned who were part of that Netherlands for nominating and voting on POI. So interesting, but didn't want to cut off your news, but I wanted to put that in there. Thank you for everybody who gave us a heads up. We didn't respond the way we could have because we kind of were part of it. So I just kind of said, hey, thank you for the heads up. We appreciate it, but we're on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And related back to the Niantic, the Netherlands thread, a user by the name of Random Cybrarian, which is a fantastic username, posted on Reddit that they got a 30-day ban in Wayfarer and Pokemon Go for nominating stuff in the Netherlands They said it was nominating in good faith, and I'm going to use air quotes because they're unable to share the nominations they put in. But what I suspect happened, and I got the link to the article, and we'll put it in the show notes if anybody's interested in kind of skimming through it. I skimmed through it. I think what happened was they saw a bunch of stuff going onto the map, and they were like, "Must be eligible," and then they threw it in, and then they just kind of got swept up.
You know, I wonder, and I'm wondering out loud, and I don't know this for sure, so don't kill me. I wonder if this was part of those light poles that were going in. Remember all those light poles that people were sending us? Because the people on this thread flat out refused to send in examples of what had happened. So I'm like, whenever someone protests that much and they won't send it in, it really makes me think.
Yep, absolutely. Do I think that they were like actively abusing the system? Probably not. Is 30 days a bit harsh for a first punishment? Maybe, but again, we're only seeing one side of that story, and we haven't seen examples of what they nominated. So I have faith in the Wayfarer team that they know what they're doing, and that their punishment was, in their eyes at least, apt for what that they did. Right. So.
Right. And remember, like we said before, Chris, the punishment that Pokemon Go set out, the 730 permanent, Wayfarer never said they were going to follow those same rules. They never said that the first one was going to be a slap on the wrist and then a little more serious. They never said that. So they can go straight to 30 days and nobody should be able to complain.
Yep. 100%. Absolutely. Right. And like I said a couple episodes ago, they've got a shiny banhammer and they are not afraid to use it, and they will whack you hard with it. Right. But this brought up something, and I think this will segue good into topic number 1. Ignorance of the Wayfarer criteria and rules is not an excuse. Right. And I posted this in the Discord, and Hamtaro was like, I said, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, and Wayfarer criteria isn't any different. And there's like, well, that's kind of extreme, calling Wayfarer criteria the law. And I'm like, fair. 100%, you're absolutely right. That's not really what I meant. I was just kind of using an example, but ignorance of the rules and the criteria is not an excuse. So I wanted to do a little bit of myth busting this week.
Ooh.
This is an idea I've had for a while, and then I overheard Tintino say something when we were talking to the Wayfarer team when we were in New York, and it kind of sparked the idea again. I started making notes furiously in my phone while we were standing there. So we're going to do some myth busting this week.
Wait a minute. So does that make so which one of the myth busters are you? Are you Jamie? If we're doing the myth busters?
Yeah, I'm Jamie. You can be, what's the other guy's name?
I couldn't remember, but I remembered Jamie. That's
Adam.
why I said
Adam. And
Adam.
Jamie.
That's right.
Adam,
so I'm Adam. So I've got I'm the clean shaven one, and you're the one with the beret and the beard, right?
Yeah, with the beret and the beard. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. Cool.
I got some ideas for this week's thumbnail for you too.
So. That's why I said it, because I could see it in your eye. I could see the thumbnail in your eye. It's going to come in at like 2:35 a.m. and you're going to be like, here it is. It's done. And I'm going to be like, oh my God, that's great. All right, let's get into it.
Probably exactly what's going to happen.
Yep.
So I've got 11 things that
right.
I think we'll go one by one. I'll read them out and then we'll kind of discuss them.
Yeah, let's bust some myths, my guy. Let's go.
First one, I saw an example of this on the map. That means that all of those are eligible. That is false.
False.
We have said it before and we'll say it again. Just because something is on the map does not make it eligible. Cough, fire hazards, cough. Right?
Right.
So that one's pretty simple. I mean, if you see something on the map, do some research, look into it. Is it eligible? Put it up against the criteria, and then kind of go from there, right?
Can I give an example on that?
Absolutely.
Fire stations. We know that Ingress was seeded with a ton of fire stations all around the world. And after cooler heads prevailed, they realized, wait a minute, this blocks emergency services. So we are not going to allow any more fire stations to come online. But even in my area, there's a ton of fire stations that are on the map right now that should not be, and that people are actively removing. So that myth is busted.
Busted. Yep. I'll get all the little busted thing from Mythbusters and put it on the YouTube.
Yes.
All right, number 2 is this is the one that I overheard Tintino. So this is directly out of the mouth of a Niantic employee. Poor AR scans will result in your Wayspot being removed. That is false.
False.
False. Busted. Not true.
Busted. Not true.
Directly out of the mouth of a Niantic employee.
Feel free to do your scans. It will not result in the Wayspot being removed. And the reason why, Chris, there are completely different teams that are handling those AR scans. And we've talked about it before that a lot of Niantic are completely in silos. And this is a perfect example of one being in a silo and not sharing data with another. You can scan away without it being removed.
Correct. Can poor scans get you banned from doing AR scans? Absolutely.
Yes.
If you submit enough of them, they will take the ability away from you, and you won't even get those quests anymore.
That's right.
But it cannot get your Wayspots removed. Sorry. I see that one all the time, and I'm like, it's not true. It's just not. It's
busted.
Number 3, Niantic decides whether or not your nomination is approved. That is false.
False.
Most of the time.
False with an asterisk?
False with an asterisk, yeah. The amount of reviews that Niantic does compared to the Wayfarer community is very, very, very small. Right. They do pull a certain amount into their voting, but if it says in voting and there's no Niantic light ship in symbol logo beside in voting, the community is doing that. Niantic has nothing to do with that one.
Right. Yep.
All right, number 4. The next 2 are, so I put this out on Twitter and I posted in the Discord asking for people for examples. So the next 2 are from friend of the show, Prince Padov. The category list in Pokemon Go is a list of all the eligible things that you can submit. That is false.
False. We talked about this last week.
We did talk about this last week.
Yeah, we brought this up last week that I don't remember exactly what it was, but someone was like, it's in the drop-down list, so it's eligible. It's like, I know, no. Sweet Summer Child, it is not eligible just because it's in the list. That list it's like real world things, but it is not eligible.
It was the cell tower that was Cole the week number 1, I think it was. Yeah, number 1 was the cell tower, number 2 was the bus, yeah.
Yep, just because it's on the list does not mean it's there. That myth is busted.
Number 5. Number 5. Gated areas are ineligible because of private residential property, safe pedestrian access, inappropriate location. That is false.
False.
Just because it's behind the gate in a fenced area doesn't mean it's ineligible. Pedestrian access just means it has to be accessible by somebody on foot. It just means that you have to be able to get to it on foot. Not everybody can get to it on foot.
Correct.
I think that's a big one.
That's a huge one. And I think that's one of those people think they're using their common sense that, if this is behind a fence, if this is behind a gate and I can't get back there. A really good example is some of the huge mega churches, especially in my area in the South. They will lock the gate at the street level, and the churches call it 500 meters down a road, right? And there's this big palace of a church, and there's POIs in there, but they lock it at night. That someone can get in there, so it's eligible. It's locked. It doesn't mean it's not eligible.
Yep, 100%. And now, if it's locked behind a gate and then the other side of that gate is private property, 100% that's private property, right? But like things in zoos, like zoos aren't open 24/7, but everything in a zoo should be eligible because people go there. Amusement parks, same thing, right? Like it's closed part of the day. Things in malls, there's often like artwork and paintings on the walls inside of shopping malls. That's eligible, right? Mom and pop restaurants inside a mall. That's eligible.
Some of my favorite places to drop my Pokemon are in gyms in the mall where you can only reach it by being in the mall. Because I'm like, I know it's going to stay in there overnight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a few down in the mall in Plattsburgh that I used to drop in right before the mall closed because I know I would stay there until the morning.
Yep. Get my 50 coins.
Yep. That brings me to the next one, number 6. Points of interest on grounds of apartment buildings or townhouse complexes are private property. That is false.
False.
False. Things in those areas, that is considered common public areas. So it's eligible. If it's eligible, it's eligible. It's private property. That's not a thing there, right? So, and that one gets people a lot because they see like a playground in like a fenced area inside the apartment complex, and they're like, nope, pedestrian access, private property, see you later. Right? It's
right.
No.
As long as someone can assess it, it's legal.
Yep. 100%. Right. And there's certain exceptions to that, but 99% of the time, that's how it is.
And, you know, if we really search long, deep, far, and hard enough, we can find an exception to everything. But we're trying to get to the 80, 90% here, and you're spot on there. It's legal.
Number 7. Something has safe pedestrian access if I can access the Wayspot from across the street. This is unequivocally and unbelievably false. And this one...
False.
This one drives me absolutely bonkers. You have to be able to... Pedestrian access means that you have to be able to get right up to the object.
And touch it.
Yeah, exactly. Or below the object in the case of like a suspended art. Like if art is suspended up in the sky, because I've had somebody be like, I can't touch it. It has no pedestrian access. It's not what that means.
No, that's not the spirit of it.
You have to be able to get up and touch it, right?
No, this came up in our Discord because someone was talking about one of those statues in the middle of a roundabout, right? Was that is that the context it was?
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, right? So if it's in the middle of a roundabout, right? Cars drive. If you don't know what a roundabout is, then you are so lucky, and I am envious of you because I hate them. It's essentially a patch of grass or whatever in the middle, and then its cars drive around in a circle, and then there's usually 4 streets that go off on 4 sides of the circle, right? So you drive around till you get to your exit, and off you go. They call it a roundabout because you go round about the circle.
Right.
There often cities will put things in the center of that, like a statue or like a sign or something that otherwise would be eligible, right? If there's no walkway that goes across, like a pedestrian marked in the street walkway where you can stop, and then it will force the cars to stop, or a sidewalk.
Yeah.
It will force the cars to stop, and you can't get across that road safely without darting across traffic. That's not eligible, right? It doesn't matter if you can access it through your interaction radius from across the street. That doesn't count, right? No. So somebody in my local area tried to get a welcome to the Oshawa sign approved. Mm-hmm. I must have seen it 15 times in my reviews.
They just kept trying, huh?
And it was like this, yeah. I think it was actually multiple people, because at one point I got 2 of them in one review session. So wow. I think that whoever it was got it rejected a bunch of times, and they were just like, "Hey," and they got all of their friends to try. But like the supporting information got more and more angry, and they were like, "No, I can access it from across the street." But it was like the sign was on an off ramp from the highway, and there wasn't even a sidewalk on that side.
Right.
Like it was just curb, guardrail, and the sign.
Yeah, nowhere where a pedestrian could safely stop and gather with other explorers and wayfinders to take down a gym if a gym was placed there, or even spin a stop.
Yep. Right. So like, that's the thing. You have to be able to go up to the object and remain there. Like it's not enough to be able to run up to it, hit it, and then run away. Right. You're not playing tag. So that one drives me nuts, because people are just like, nope, I can access it from 80 meters away in Pokemon Go. So
and people think of it in a Pokemon Go context, and they don't think of it in a true POI context, that Ingress has a significantly less interaction radius, and who knows what other games are going to have. And if you're banking on just the Pokemon Go radius, you're going to put yourself and other trainers in a lot of danger.
Yep. Yeah, I know So that gym that I can access from my couch in Pogo, I cannot access that portal in Ingress from my couch. I have to go outside, and I can't access the whatever it is in Monster Hunter. I have to go outside to do it.
Right.
I think it's like a resource gathering spot. But yeah, I can't. Pogo's the only one that has the 80-meter interaction radius that I'm aware of. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you can't look at it from that. You have to be able to get right up to it, right? So that's a big pet peeve of mine.
Yep, 100%.
All right, number 8. Niantic decides whether or not my approved nomination appears in my game. So this is mostly kind of true, right?
So enter the meme of was it Superman or Batman? Someone kind of stroking the beard. It's kind of this one is kind of in and it's kind of out.
Yeah, exactly. That's the I don't know if you've ever seen them fact-checking websites. It'd be like, mostly true. So Niantic, the game teams decide what the inclusion rules are for their game. And they say, we are going to pull from the Lightship map these Wayspots because of these rules, right? So the job of the Wayfarer team and the job of Niantic Wayfarer is to curate what's called the Lightship map. We just put things on the map, right? If it's important or whatever, we just put it on the map, and then it's up to the Pokemon Go team to decide which stops they want. It's up to
and we went over that last week.
Decide which portals. It's up to and #justice for Pikmin Bloom, the Pikmin Bloom team to decide what flowers they want or whatever, right?
And people can go back to episode 85 to hear those rules.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. And I will put a link up in the. I always do that the wrong side. That's that corner. Link to episode 85. So it's kind of true. They don't sit there and they don't actively look at every single accepted nomination and go, "That's good for Pokemon Go. That's for Ingress. That's for Monster Hunter." No, they set the rules and they let an algorithm do the job. Right? They once a day they have a sync. Or once every couple of days, they have a sync. It pulls things from the Lightship map. It throws it on to whatever map of the game you play, and they're done, right? And Niantic is very, very, very reluctant to change inclusion rules once they've been set.
Right.
The only time that I think that they've ever changed that I've seen is when Ingress got away from the 20-meter rule, and then they went back to it.
Right. They went away. Well, also remember, Ingress also just recently went away from as soon as it's approved, it goes on the map and they now have an inclusion time. So, and they did that to be uniform with the other games. So, and I think we're both in 100% support of that should be uniform.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So it used to be if you nominated something and it was too close to a portal, it just kind of went off into oblivion.
Right.
Right. But now it appears on the Lightship map. And theoretically, that stuff that's even Lightship out only should appear in your nearby when you're doing your reviews, right? Like before, I nominated a playground, and it must have been like 2 meters too close to another portal.
It didn't show up, right?
And it didn't show up. So I emailed the team, and they were like, "Hey, it was approved." And I'm like, "I understand it was approved, but it's not in Ingress. If I nominate it again, is it going to show up on the nearby?" And they were like, "It was approved."
Right.
I'm like, "You're a robot, aren't you?"
Yes, you're a robot.
So I never got a straight answer. So I made sure that I put the pin far enough away the second time. It got approved. It was in the game, and then everything was kosher. But
they didn't dupe it. I thought they would dupe that.
Nope.
They didn't.
So
shocked.
I was shocked too. That leads me to believe that back before the Lightship map was a thing, and things just went directly into Ingress. If you got that notification saying, "Hey, this is too close to another portal," it just vanished. Like it didn't go. They didn't keep it. They didn't save it. They didn't store it. Like it just went off into oblivion, like it never happened.
That's very, very interesting.
Right. Okay. So in my nomination list, I have that playground approved twice.
Okay.
It's the weird quirk of
what do the kids say? Weird flex, but okay.
Exactly. Yeah. How many people have gotten the same thing approved twice without cheating?
Without cheating. Yeah.
All right. Where are we? Number 9.
Ooh, this is a good one.
This is a good one. This is from friend of the show, Woodwolf Wolf, who's kind of been in his element with the OpenStreetMap stuff lately. So kudos to him and that push. Sports fields and parks need signs to be eligible. That is false.
False.
Sports fields and especially parks do not need a sign to be eligible. So you don't have to have a sign that says this is Bob's Park, right? Or welcome to the Frank Robinson Memorial Park. It doesn't need a sign.
Yes.
If it's
or
like
this is a softball field.
Right. Or this is like, yeah, softball field, or this is a soccer field, right? Sports fields, I think, are a little bit easier to get through because you can kind of say this is a baseball field, and people were like, "Yes, I recognize that that's a baseball field." But
Right.
like parks are a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and this is the point they were making in the Discord. It's like if you're looking at an open area that's got like a picnic table area and like a playground and all this other stuff, things that are generally in a park, and it doesn't have a sign, it's still a park.
It's still a park.
Like it's still a park. Like you don't need signs to tell you that it's a park. It's a park.
Well, Chris, I'll go one further. Now, this might be borderline on the absurd, but have you ever, even once, seen a sign that says this is a basketball court or this is a tennis court? You walk up and you go, oh, this is a basketball court. That's a tennis court. And when I'm walking down the street and I come up to an area, like when we were in New York City, and I was walking around Jersey, I'm like, oh, there's a park. I didn't need a sign to tell me that that was a park. I could clearly look and see it was a park.
Yep, exactly. Right. And the only time that you're ever really going to get a sign for a sports field is if it was dedicated to someone.
Right.
Like this is like there's like 15 parks or baseball diamonds down. That's 15 is a bit of an exaggeration, but most of them are dedicated to somebody who was instrumental in baseball Oshawa, because baseball Oshawa's been a thing forever.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's not always the case. Like sometimes they just build a baseball diamond for the sake of building a baseball diamond, right? And sometimes they just build parks for the sake of building parks, and they haven't put a sign up yet, or maybe they're not gonna put a sign up.
Or there's a sign somewhere else in the park, but it's specific to one thing, and the overall park doesn't have a sign. So you shouldn't have to go to your city council and get a sign paid for and erected in one spot just so someone says, oh, I believe it's a park now because there's a sign, when you can clearly see it's a park.
Yep, exactly. Right. So parks don't need signs. Granted, if you're taking a picture of like just an open field and it has nothing in it, then that's probably not a park. It's probably just an open field. But
exactly.
Parks don't need signs. Number 10. This is from friend of the show, Sarah Amanda. Review plugins do not work on mobile. That is false. They do.
False.
They do work. This is one of those things that Sarah Amanda mentioned to me when we were at the
Queen's
Airbnb
house?
in the Queen's house. Yes.
Yeah.
In New York.
It's part of your guys' deep conversation.
Yeah. They only work on certain browsers. So if you want to put the review plugins on your phone, look into what browsers work for. It doesn't work for all of the browsers, but they do work. And I have seen proof. So there you go. Where are we? Number 11. And this is something that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Wayfarer abuse can lead to my Niantic game account being banned. That is true. True. We talked about this earlier. Niantic will and have banned your Pogo, Ingress, whatever account if your Wayfarer abuse is bad enough. So watch yourself. And I've had that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now I was going to say, this is just one of those, like, don't be silly. Just do what's right. Don't be silly.
Yep. I had a conversation with somebody recently in my local area who was abusing the system, and they were just like, "Meh, whatever. I'll just re-on." I'm like, "You are level 50. You might want to stop because they'll ban your Pogo account."
Do they know who it was that was doing that?
No.
Okay.
No,
Oh, I got such a kick out of that. Such a kick out of that.
They are big mad. I think they assume, but they don't have proof.
They don't have proof. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, just watch yourself. I'd hate for anybody to, if you're abusing the system, you're abusing the system, and you deserve a ban. But I would hate for someone like that person earlier was like, oh, I've spent thousands of euros and played this game since 2017 or whatever. And I'm like, they don't care.
Right, exactly.
If you could be the biggest whale in the system, they will ban you.
Yeah, and what wasn't abuse 3 months ago is now abuse. So make sure you read your guidelines, make sure you're up on your criteria, and make sure that you're not. I mean, the people who are doing this know what they're doing. The people who are in Austria, the people in the Netherlands, they're rolling the dice. They're gambling is essentially what they're doing. And they're like, I'm going to submit 500 Wayspots, and they might catch 10%, but they're not going to ban me. Guess what, gal? They're going to ban you. I know they're going to ban you. I can't tell you how I know they're going to ban you, but I know they're going to ban you.
Yep. And here's the other thing, right? Like, just because you did abuse and got away with it 6, 8, 12, 24 months ago, they're not afraid to go back and ban people for stuff that they did before, because guess what? It was abuse then.
Yeah.
It's abuse now.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations is not a thing. Oh, I got away with it a year ago, so I'm free and clear. No.
Nope.
No, you're not.
Nope. Because if something is illegally placed on the game board, Niantic has the jurisdiction to move it at any time. You can't say, oh, I did that in 2018, so I'm good. It's like, nah, dog, you're not good. If that was in a correct location and you moved it to an incorrect location and you moved 5 or 6 of its friends to incorrect locations, guess what? Those are going to get fixed. And they know who did it. It's not like you can act anonymous unless you deleted that account and you opened up a new one. If you did it, whatever, if it was an alt account, doesn't matter what it is, they're going to find it.
Yep. And here's the thing, right? Like, we mentioned this earlier, that the game teams decide their inclusion rules. So if you're using the Wayfarer system to bypass the inclusion rules of Pokemon Go, do you really think that the Pokemon Go team is going to be like, just give them a slap on the wrist, it's fine? No. You are breaking their rules through a system that's not like. That's why the Pogo bans are coming, right? Because people are abusing Wayfarer to benefit themselves in Pogo.
Exactly. Here comes a shiny new ban hammer.
There's your extradition treaty. Is you're getting banned in both. Sorry about your luck.
Oh, I love that extradition.
And I think that's the big thing that's getting people. It's like, oh no, they'll just ban my Wayfarer account. No, I'll make a new dummy account to do Wayfarer in, but my level 60 Pogo account is going to be fine. And then now they look at their level 50, but like, oh no, I've gotten a Pogo ban.
I thought you were tipping your hand there. I was like, do you know something I don't know?
I don't actually know.
Watch this. I was going to do this. Whoop, the antenna was going to go up. I'm like, wait a minute. Was that a Freudian slip there, Chris? Do you know something?
No, I'm actually, funny enough, it's on my brain because I'm working on what would level 60, like what the quests for level 60 would look like if they release it, because it's all over Twitter.
Yeah. You are way too modest, Chris. So what we don't talk about every week, and we probably should for our listeners, both on audio and on YouTube, Chris is a very talented writer for PokemonGoHub.net, and he's written a lot of really good articles. That's how I first found Chris, because he did a fantastic article about Wayfarer, and now he's the co-host of the show. But Chris writes a lot of really good articles. I link it every week in the show notes. So if you haven't gone back and read Chris's articles, you really should. And he's working on a couple of fantastic articles. I don't know how much he wants to talk about it now until he gets them written, but 2 articles that I'm really excited to read. Even though I know what they're about, I'm really excited to read them. So he's more faceted than just a superstar podcast host. He's also a great writer and editor, and he's going to write some really cool articles coming up. So that's my shameless plug for you, sir.
I appreciate that. You are a big fan of mine, and I really appreciate that. You always speak so kindly about me. It's great. The level 60 one is going to be a big one. I'm really excited about that one.
So do you have one more that we're going to bust?
I have one more that I didn't have when we started, but I've added it since we've started it. So
I just looked over at the show notes and I saw it being typed in. I'm like, oh, there's number 12. What do you know?
I thought about this one as we were talking. So last one, rejection criteria overrule acceptance criteria, and that is true.
Yes, true.
If you could have things that fall into every single pillar that Niantic wants, great for exploration, great for whatever, right? But if it's on school grounds, it's ineligible. Sorry, like it's if it has a rejection criteria, it's not valid. It doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
End of story.
You know, there's one that we didn't bring up, and I think we need to do a little more research on it because I think it might fall into this category. And I don't know the answer to this one. Is military bases. And I've been asked this question directly several times. And in my researching to answer the question, I think it's changed. I think you can have something 100% legitimate, like you just said, and it can be on a restricted part of the military base, and it makes it ineligible. But before I bust that myth or don't bust that myth, I think I need to do some more research on that. I don't know if you know the answer to that because that one is murky for me. And I've asked a couple of different people who should know, and I got 2 different answers from each person.
So my understanding of that, and I will do some research and correct myself next week if I'm wrong, but I believe anything that is geofenced in open street maps as military has no spawns and no stops. Right. I think there's some stuff that's grandfathered in.
There is.
I know I saw someone posted in the forums a little while ago that they were living on a military base and got nothing. No spawns, no stops, no nothing. And they were really frustrated because they were trying to get stuff into the game because their kid played Pokemon Go and their husband was in the military and they were on a military base. And someone was like, sorry, you live on a military base, you're going to have to go off base because, and this happened in Canada, and I think in Ottawa, people walked into a restricted part of a military base and got arrested because they were chasing Pokemon and weren't paying attention to where they were.
Right.
And it was, I think it was in Ottawa, it's a big article that they almost got charged with domestic terrorism.
Oh my goodness.
Because they were like super close to like this area of the base that was super off limits to even parts of the military. And like the military police came down, like tackled them and arrested them, and then
that's
they got
crazy
interrogated for like 12 hours, and they were like, we were just chasing a Snorlax.
Well, in North Carolina on the coast, a city called Jacksonville, North Carolina, a lot of season 1, especially when I had Heracross Boss on the show, we made fun of Jacksonville because there's a lot of coal in Jacksonville. There's also a big, huge military base in Jacksonville with a lot of what you might consider legitimate POIs that we would always say, you know, if you see something from Jacksonville, it's probably coal. But there's a lot of military bases down there. And I remember early on in the OPR days, I would see a lot of legitimate playgrounds that I would have to go back and 1-star because I knew they were on the military base. And like you said, you can go to open street maps and you can see it's that kind of like diamond, hexagonal kind of like overlay on top of it. And it's like, do not enter a military base. But I don't know. I haven't seen that come up on the Wayfarer forums in a while. And I haven't seen it come up in the Wayfarer discussion Discord, although I do see it a lot on Reddit. And where I've seen it on Reddit has mostly been in response to Germany, a lot of the U.S. military bases in Germany, and whether or not you can have a POI on there. And again, I don't know enough about it to bust it or not bust it, but I thought we could probably bring it up right now because that kind of goes with what you were saying for number 12 is rejection criteria, overrule, acceptance criteria. So more to come there. I would venture to say on the safe side, if you see something on a military base that's clearly marked a military base, it's probably not going to be eligible. But then again, Niantic could say, hey, let's nominate things on military bases like they did with K-12. We'll have to do a little more research and get back to you on that.
Yeah. I believe it was 2021 when they kind of flipped the script on that one. In 2020, so I just Googled it real quick. In 2020, the Canadian military ordered people in their military to start playing Pokemon Go so that they knew when like super rare things spawned on the military bases so that they could go out
Really?
and head off Pokemon Go players. Yeah.
Really? That's a
Yeah,
really
I remember
interesting
this now that I'm
directive.
reading the article.
Wow.
Because it happened because people were wandering onto Canadian military bases.
Yeah,
And they were
yeah.
tired of it.
Wow. They're like, hey, we
No.
oh god, that was back in the days when we would see wild Dragonite spawns. Remember those? And people would lose their minds over
Yeah, I
wild
do.
Dragonite spawns.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, very interesting. I love it, man. Great topic.
Right,
Thank you for that. That was really good. It's a great topic.
Yeah, we'll probably have another set of stuff to myth bust at some other point, but for now, that's all we got. If you have things that you want us to myth bust or things that you think people in the community think are true that aren't, please reach out to us on Twitter, send us an email, voice note, and then we will do a myth busting part 2 at some point in the future.
I love it.
So
I
that
love it.
brings us to real quick, because we spent a lot of time on that. So I picked a kind of a light and breezy topic number 2. Wayfarer Challenge win. So
Ooh. Is that win in capital letters with a
win in capital letters because we are overdue. So
right.
Indonesia was February 15th, 2023 to February 28th, 2023, right?
Yep.
Spain, and I use Spain with the air quotes.
Yep.
Was May 24th to June 7th. So the time between those challenges was 98 days. It was about 3 months. 3 months and a week.
Okay.
The time between the Spain challenge, and that turned into 4 country challenge, and today is about 3 months. So it's 104 days. We haven't even gotten one announced yet. So that begs the question, and I know that sometimes the Niantic folk listen to us, so we are putting the question out to the Wayfarer team: are we getting another challenge this year? And if so, when are we getting it? So I think my thoughts on this is they had a lot of learnings from the last challenge.
For sure.
Right? They had a lot of things that went really, really well. We did a whole episode on...
We did.
I did it again. A whole episode on the last challenge, the learnings, and all of the things that they did great, and all of the things that didn't go so well. So I think what's happening is they are still taking those learnings and putting in some fixes and trying to figure out the best way to approach the next challenge so that this doesn't happen. And I don't think that they were cognizant necessarily of how long it's been since the last challenge. And they're just kind of like...
We're here to remind them.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So they'll probably listen to us and go, Wayfarer challenge.
Yeah. So, I took it upon myself to kind of scan the map. So the entire continent of Africa could use a Wayfarer challenge. Things are so sparse. So a couple things there. There's not a lot of, just from looking at the map, there's not a lot of POIs on the map, which could mean there's a lot of things impending, or it just could mean they need to send the Wayfarer team. They need to parachute us in, create the parachute team, drop us into Central Africa with our 120 nominations and let us run wild, then do a challenge. So the entire continent of Africa could use it. Now, when you go a little bit north and a little bit east, when you go into like Saudi Arabia, you get into areas around there. Let's leave out some of the war-torn areas. There's a lot of areas around there that could use some help. Now, to that area's credit, a lot of that is straight desert. So there might not be a lot of things there. Russia obviously has some challenges. But I think anytime you get outside of a predominantly English-speaking country, it seems like there's things that you can do there. So I scanned the map, Chris, for like 2 hours, looking at the entire globe and saying, where could the next challenge be? And I think if we think long and hard of it, we could give them some really cool suggestions of things that I would like to see. But where do you think the next Wayfarer challenge could be?
It is actually hilarious that you said Africa, because that was going to be my suggestion. I came to the exact same conclusion that you did.
Right.
That seems to be the most underrepresented area, and it's a big area too, right? So you wouldn't have to necessarily pinpoint it to one country. You could say, hey, we're just going to do the whole continent.
Yes.
And pick your spot, right? And I was just thinking about this while you were talking. What if, as part of the challenge, they said, hey, we're going to do this challenge in a month, right? Go out there. If you live in that area, go out there and put in nominations of good things, right? Of good things. And if you get 5 or 10 things approved, you get an upgrade, right? If you get 20 things approved of yours, right? Just give someone bonuses for going out and nominating. That way you can get more things into the world, right? And that's if they look and say, hey, it's underrepresented from a nomination standpoint. Just give them a month to get everything in, and then once that month is up, you release the rest of the world into doing the reviews of all the things that they just spent a month nominating, right? That way you're not necessarily looking for a place that's got a lot of submissions but not a lot of reviewers.
Right.
You can promote people joining the Wayfarer system, and that might have like a more longer term effect, saying, hey,
absolutely,
I went in and did 15 things, 14 of them got approved, and now they're in my community. This is amazing.
This is amazing.
Right.
Right.
And that way you're not just throwing people into that community and then pulling them back out again, because like in Spain and Indonesia, they're going to have that problem after, right?
Yeah, they sure
are. You got a bunch of people reviewing, and then now you don't. Right. So you're not really fixing the underlying problem.
And we saw the numbers. The numbers were tremendous. But I would love to know, now that we are 98 days, 104 days, or whatever the numbers are, I would love to know what the retention rate of those reviewers are. Is it a 50, 60, 40? What's the retention rate? How many people at the zenith? There's my big word for the episode. At the zenith, how many of those are still on? And how often are they submitting / reviewing? So I'd love to see it in Africa. The diversity we would see there'd be just about, I saw the stat somewhere when I was looking at this, and I saw the show notes and I did some research. I want to say in the continent of Africa, they speak almost every language that's in the rest of the planet. Now, a lot of that gets into some really dark things about people from other countries that spoke those languages going in and doing some nefarious things there. I'm not here to get into the whole political aspect of why people speak French and English and German and Norwegian and Spanish in Africa. You can go and look up the history on that. But I think we would see a lot of diversity. You know what I mean? I think we'd see a lot of diversity in languages and culture if we did an Africa challenge.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I think that would be the solution to their, we picked an area that's too small and we just knocked it out of the park. Right? You just pick a whole continent and say, go.
Right.
Yep. So, and even if they did North Africa for a little bit and then, Central, and then just kind of like rotated a little bit like they did with the other countries, you kind of do that and do it by region. But
and again, I'm going to volunteer us to be part of the parachute team. Again, I mean, it's so good. And even if someone wants to steal the idea and run with it, the Niantic logo is a parachute. Put the Wayfarer team in the parachute. Make us the parachute team. Drop us in some random country. I've got 80 nominations. Chris is like this close to having 80 nominations. He's that close to having 40 in Pogo and 40 in Ingress. I've got the same. Drop us somewhere for the week. Let us do our 160 nominations and then send in the chopper and pull us out. Got 160 in there, and then let's go. And then we could do that like every other weekend or every 40 days, however long it takes to regenerate our nominations. But we would gladly volunteer to be on the parachute team and throw an ambassador. Throw an ambassador in there with us to supervise us, however you want to see it. So Tintino, Tim, you can come with us. Avocado, you can come with us. We can all be part of the parachute team.
Absolutely. We'll bring some of our Patreons along with us. Make a week out of it.
Yeah. We could easily get up to like 1,000 nominations. Just send me down with the Intel map. I won't say what criteria I'll use, but drop me in with the Intel map and let me go crazy. How about that? Was that PC enough for you?
I think we can get away with that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's good. I think we should take a break.
Yeah, let's do
Take
it.
5 minutes, play some dad jokes, and then I have got a Wayspot of the week that is phenomenal and a Cole of the week that is, I think, hilarious. So we're going to do that. We'll take a break first, and we will see you on the other side.
What bear is the most condescending? A panda? What kind of noise does a witch's vehicle make? Broom, broom. That was funny. Did you hear about the actor who broke his leg on stage? It's okay. He's still in the cast. Why did the pharmacist walk on tiptoes? They didn't want to wake up the sleeping pill. Why are elevator jokes so good and so classic? Because they work on so many levels. What did the police officer say to his belly button? Freeze! You're under arrest. What do you call it when a group of apes starts a company? Monkey business. What do you call a naughty lamb dressed up like a skeleton for Halloween? Bad to the bone. Want to know why nurses like red crayons? Because sometimes they have to draw blood. What did Tennessee? The same thing as Arkansas.
All right, everybody, welcome back from the break. Hope you liked the dad jokes this week. We are going to jump right into Wayspot of the week. And Wayspot of the week this week comes from Cindy Pooh, Cary, North Carolina, in the Wayfarer discussion Discord. And when they posted this, they said, kudos to whoever took that picture without getting their reflection in it. And I 100% agree.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
This is fantastic. So it is, for those of you who are listening on the audio version, it looks like a bunch of mirrors that were cut up to look like clouds. And there must be, 30, 40 of them?
Easy.
On different poles, strewn out. So it looks like a sky full of clouds, but they're all mirrors.
And they're all at different angles. So they're reflecting different things.
Yes. It's different angles. There's different sizes of them. So some of them are reflecting what looks like a concrete path. Some of them are reflecting the sky. Some of them are reflecting the trees that are in the area. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
It is. It's really interesting Wayspot. So cool.
And
very cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. The title is Reflections, and the description is art installation of mirrored clouds, at a college in North Lawn. So this is absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were able to take such an amazing picture of this without getting themselves in that reflection is I have no idea how they did it.
I don't know how they did it either. It's outstanding. I love it. Cindy Pooh is not a local to me. It's probably closer to Maddie G up in that area, but I love it. North Carolina has a whole lot to offer. So Cindy Pooh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for posting this. It's amazing. That brings us to things that are not amazing, but amazing in a different way. Cole of the week.
That's such a good way to put it. Amazing in a much different way. So we should probably play the sounder, huh?
Yes, play the song.
I've been working on the Wayfarer all the live long day. I've been working on the Wayfarer just to pass the... Uh-oh. Oh, no. Hey, Jamal, I found some coal.
All right, so Cole of the Week number 1. I'm going to take this one, Chris, if you don't mind. This comes to us from Chai Middleton in the Niantic Wayfarer Reviewers and Nomination Facebook group. I love this group. This is an awesome one right here. And so this one is a nomination. It's a restaurant nomination from a Tim Horton. So I'll kind of spoil it there. And let me bring this up on screen. But that's not what makes this one cool, interesting, or unique. Not in a good way. It is, if I'm not mistaken, this is just like an empty bag of fries, right? That's what this is?
It is
or
a
is
bagel
it
wrapper.
a bagel wrapper? Okay. So
Yeah.
the nomination says Tim Horton. It's Route des Review. What is that word there?
Route de Rivière.
Route de la Rivière. And it's a bagel wrapper, Chris.
Yep.
And this comes to us from, where is that? That is in Canada.
St.
That's in
Nicholas.
the, yeah, it's in the French.
Yeah.
It's in Quebec. It's in the French part of Canada. So it's a bagel wrapper. So when I first looked at it in the show notes, I was like, is that just an empty bag of fries? But we've talked about ways in which to get something in a fast food restaurant, and nominate it, get it successfully in the game. This, my friends, is not it. This is bad. This is like Coal of the Week. This is like Santa Claus is putting this into your stocking. This is the opposite of good, is what this is. This is bad, bad, bad.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, when I was preparing all of the little background. So when I'm preparing the show, I have all of the Wayspot of the Week, Coal of the Week on different tabs in my browser so that I can pull it up on screen for the YouTube viewers. When I was putting it up on there, one of my 9-year-old twins looks up and goes, with a big heavy sigh, and goes, "Did somebody try and make a Tim Hortons wrapper a Pokestop?"
Yep.
And I was like, yeah. And he just kind of shook his head. And I'm like, that's my boy.
Yeah. You're raising him right. That's
Raising him
amazing.
right, yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. This is cool all the way around. So if you're watching this, don't do it. If you're listening to this right now, if you're listening to this on the audio feed, do us a favor and come over to the YouTube and check it out. And if you want to know where to find the YouTube, it's pretty simple. You just want to go to youtube.com and you want to go to at the Wayfarers podcast, Wayspotters podcast. You got to check some of these out. Go back and check out the history of the Coal of the Week. Some of these are just coal-tastic. And I think you have a coal-tastic one for Coal of the Week number 2, right?
I do. Let's pull up. Coal of the Week number 2 comes to us. This is good. This is a really, really good one. I picked this one, and I said this in the Discord. I picked this one strictly for how this is going to look as a short. So check out the short when it's done. This comes to us from friend of the show, Wood Was Wolf. It is a historical plaque outside of a covered bridge. The title is Gilpin's Falls Covered Bridge, Gosford. And the description is 100 old bridge built in Gosford. So this is what was from Australia. So keep that in mind. This is a nomination in Australia.
Okay.
So the main picture, let me pull up the main picture, is a bridge with a plaque outside of it, right? So if you zoom in on the plaque a little bit, so let's zoom in on the plaque a little bit. It says Gilpin's Falls Covered Bridge.
Yep.
Title makes sense.
Yep.
And look, you can read the description on this, and it's like, wait a minute, does that say Maryland?
Maryland?
Does that say Maryland Historical Society?
It sure does. Maryland's a long way from Australia.
It is a long way from Australia. And I know that there are some folks in Australia are saying, Chris, there is a Maryland in Australia. And you are correct. But that Maryland is an hour north of where this was submitted. And in the words of our friend Wood Was Wolf, the first permanent European colony in Australia was established in 1788. So after 1735 that this plaque is talking about.
Some 53 years after.
53 years after. So...
Oh, I saw this and I'm like, that is too good. And if you go back to the other picture, take a look at something. this was one of the first things that I noticed. If you bring up the other picture, when you look at it, it looks like someone took a screenshot of it. Doesn't that
Yes.
kind of give you kind of the grainy kind of third-party
Yep.
photos? Like that was the first thing I noticed was this looks like somebody took a picture of their computer screen.
That's exactly what it looks like. And it's
Yep.
not even that they took a screenshot of, or they saved the picture and then
They took
they took a
picture
picture
of
of
their
a covered
computer-
bridge off of
Yeah.
their computer.
Well,
You're right,
from
100%.
from Maryland on the east coast of the United States and nominated it in Australia. Now, you know what, Chris? If they had to turn the picture upside down, it might have fooled me. It might have fooled me. If they had to turn the picture upside down, it might have slipped right by me. But since they didn't, I knew it was fake.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. I couldn't not share this one.
Yeah,
With
that's
this
too
show.
good. That's
So,
too good.
It's
That's too
fake
good.
nominations are very bad. And go back to topic number 1. That is abuse and could very well get your account banned. So
Exactly. Yep.
that is it. Do you have anything that you want to talk about before we sign off, or are we good?
You know, we'll let people get back to their Sunday. I know, and at the time we're recording this, I'm visiting with my family. You've got family there. We've got many more weeks to talk Wayfarer, so let's let everybody get back to what they were doing, and you can go ahead and sign us off. I'm good to go.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Wayspotters. We really appreciate it. A big, huge thank you to KatettheKonz for being our executive producer, and to all of our patrons. We couldn't not do this without you. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. There are a few ways that you can show us love, as it were. Follow us on our socials. We are on Twitter at Wayspotters. We are also on Instagram at Wayspotters Podcast and on TikTok at I Make Wayspots. We started sharing our shorts on Instagram, so if you want to check out the reels there, and if that's your preferred kind of app to get stuff, we will start loading the shorts onto the Wayspotters podcast on Instagram. Next, you can visit us on our website, www.wayspotters.com. From there, you can get all of the links to everywhere you can download the show. You can also send us a message directly from the website or email us at wayspotters@pokemonprofessor.com. Some of you may be watching this on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when we upload new posts. We're putting up several shorts a week. So subscribe and you will get notified every time one of those goes up. And they're all fantastic, if I do say so myself. We post shorts for the dad jokes, Wayspot of the week, Coal of the week, and we've started posting some random stuff. And I'm going to work on my first Coals of the week video to go up this weekend, because I've got a bunch. I got a bunch from this week, so look out for that. So if you're not on YouTube, check us out, youtube.com at Wayspotters Podcast. You could also leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 704-426-3710. You never know, your voicemail may appear on an upcoming episode of the show. And finally, if you are not a member of the Pokemon Professor Network Patreon, you can join for as little as $1 US a month. I think it's down to like $1.32 Canadian right now. From there, you can go to patreon.com/Pokemon Professor, and you'll get access to the Discord for the entire family of shows across the Pokemon Professor Network, including Wayspotters, Special Conditions, Gotta Watch 'Em All, Purified Podcast, and Lured Up. It's a fantastic place filled with fantastic people. Me and Jamal are in the Wayfarer channels all the time. So join us there. And with that, we look forward to you listening and watching us again next week. Thank you for joining us on Wayspotters. And remember, it's not that far. Get out of your car.